Hi, Phil here. I'm just doing this video because I've had a script that's done really well in the biggest screenwriting contests in the world in the last year. So it's getting to the final stages at Slamdance and Austin Film Festival, and still waiting to hear on Blue Cat. I just thought I'd record a video about the feedback that I've been getting from the festivals on why my script is making it that far. And I've kind of broken them down into sort of 5 main points. I think the most important are probably the first and the fifth one, but I think they're all relevant. Take it with a pinch of salt because obviously it depends on the genre a little bit as well. Mine was sort of a supernatural horror thriller, but it also was very much a quiet drama as well. So take that into account as I'm giving this advice because some of it is kind of genre specific. But yeah, I just thought it might be useful for some of you who maybe are, not getting through those early rounds or have never submitted a script before to a film festival. So who am I? I've done written and directed quite a few short films now that have done very well. They've been screened on television and got distribution deals, and I'm just trying to make that leap now into writing and directing features. So part of the process of that is trying to get your Hollywood manager, and the way that you do that is one of the ways is you try and get a script into one of the top 5 or 6 festivals and either win or at least place in the finals. Some of the biggest are the Nichols Fellowship is probably the biggest, along with the Austin Film Festival, but then Slamdance, Page, Script Pipeline, maybe the Final Draft one as well, are probably the biggest ones that you want to get in there. There are a few others that are almost as big, like Scriptapalooza. But really, I think and of course Blue Cat as well, which is one of the oldest and kind of legendary in terms of the scripts that have won that competition, like Prisoners, for example, won one year. But those are the festivals that really you want to place highly in. If any manager in Hollywood or any agent or producer in the UK where I am is gonna take you seriously and read your work. So now we're going to get to what I've just written out 5 points that I think really helped me, and it was kind of a common theme across all the feedback that I was getting. When you submit to these festivals, most of them provide feedback. By the way, Blue Cat is the best feedback by far. It's included in the price when you submit your script to them. You don't have to pay extra for it. And it was 3 pages. 3 pages of detailed notes. Clearly, the reader had got deep into the weeds on the script. I was so impressed. But anyway, this is kind of what I've learned from reading all of those feedbacks and sort of collating what the common themes were. So now I'm going to break down what I consider to be the top 5 pieces of advice from me. Now, take it or leave it. Some people are going to write scripts that are so out there and different and unusual that they're going to get attention anyway. Mine was kind of more, I guess, in the traditional vein, but it did cross genres. It was partly thriller, a little bit of horror, but also quiet drama. I suppose the closest to it is you could say it was very much like a Jeff Nichols film, like a Take Shelter or a Midnight Special, or maybe sort of early Shyamalan. It was that kind of vibe where they do have supernatural elements, but they're treating them, quite seriously. And just look at my list here. The first one, which might actually be the most important, certainly to make sure your reader is invested in the script, is your opening act has to create a sense of mystery. Again, this is very specific to the genre that I'm dealing with, but you have to have characters who are not fully explained to you. Even your hero, your protagonist, You want to make them interesting. Interesting is more important than immediately likable. You want to find out something about them, and what that means is they have to have secrets. Your main characters have to have big secrets that they're holding to their chest, and you have to be able to signal to the reader of your script, and hence the audience, that those secrets are eventually going to be revealed, but we don't know what they are. So those secrets could be in the way that they act, the things they say, hints at their backstory, a strange rash on their arm. It could be anything. It could be a little mantra that they have, something they say. But then you have to drip feed that information. You have to drop clues to make the readers and the viewers of the film interested in discovering who this person is and why they are the way they are. And it's even better sometimes if you have sort of a double header, two lead protagonists, as both of my two recent scripts have had. It's better if each of them is having a secret. So when you get to one reveal, you think it's over, but then the other one is hiding something too. And what really works is you're creating a world where there are secrets that are going to be uncovered, and you're hinting at those secrets. You're constantly dropping clues. But you as the writer, you're demonstrating to the reader that you as the writer, you've worked it all out. You figured it all out. You know how all the dots connect. And when a reader is trying to connect those dots, trying to figure it out, they're invested. They're turning the page. And the mystery initially has to be the point. And eventually you realize that ultimately that wasn't the point, and it was the characters. Hopefully as you go along, you become so invested in these characters that by the end of the movie it's moved past the mystery and is now all about your investment in character. The second thing is to be unpredictable. One of the biggest feedbacks I got on my script that did well was that you're convinced it's going in one direction. You're absolutely certain. You think you've figured the film out. And you think you're clever for having figured the film out. And it was all very carefully laid out that you think it's going to go one way. And then midway through the script, I, as one of the readers from the festivals put it, I did a rug pull and went in a completely different direction. But that completely different direction has to be signaled beforehand. And it has to feel organic. It can't feel like a cheat. You have to lay up all those clues that are actually organic red herrings. So you think the reader is thinking themselves smart for figuring it out, but then you go in a completely different direction. And they're initially shocked, but then you want them to sort of go, oh, it's completely different. All the clues that they thought they had, they didn't have. Now, this mostly works with, the thriller genre or the mystery genre that I'm kind of working in, but I think it's relevant to, it could be relevant to your sci-fi spec script. It could be relevant to a romantic comedy. Maybe the character is hiding a secret, but it's not the secret you thought. It's something completely different, and you've layered it in, and then you've done a hard left turn. And I think that was one of the biggest pieces of positive feedback that I got. And I think it really grabbed people's attention. They realized they were in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, so they feel confident that it's going somewhere, but it's not where they thought it was going. Number 3 is originality. Now, even though I set mine in a very recognizable kind of cross-genre, I suppose, it still had its own voice. It was definitely trying to do something original and something a little bit different. So what you want to do is the same and initially recognizable, but then different. It's got its own unique gestalt to it. It's got its own unique wider world with wider connections, with wider rules to it. And I think you have to have your own voice on the page. And that means your characters each have to have their own voices, but also you have to have your own voice in the way that you're telling your story. I remember when I used to write screen directions in my early scripts, I was very much like one of my heroes, M. Night Shyamalan, and it was very, very detailed. And now I tend to write much more sparse, like a Christopher Nolan or something. I give just enough, the flavor, and that's all they need. And it keeps it reading quickly. But I've found my own style. I found my own style in the way that I structure scenes, the way I tell the story in the scenes, but also the way that I write it on the page. It's very stunted. Grammatically, some of my screen directions are very incorrect. I think it really works and keeps it brisk and fast-paced and curious. It really helps if you're trying to do something that is conceptually interesting. And in my script, when you get to the middle, you realize that it actually is doing something a little bit conceptually challenging, something you didn't quite think it was doing. A good example, recent example, is if anyone's seen Caddo Lake. No spoilers here, but that is also trying to do something very conceptually interesting. And it leads you in one direction, makes you ask questions, and then again, the wider gestalt is revealed, the wider plan, the wider view. And it kind of blows your mind. Number 4 is just basic professionalism. Obviously, people who've been screenwriting for a long time already have this. They already have their own style. They know how to put things across clearly. They know how to do good scene work. You know, the old start late, leave early, have a turn in the scene somewhere. Conflict within every scene, which I sort of agree with. But ultimately, it has to be about style and clarity. You have to be clear about what your character's journey is and how it fits in with the theme. My earlier drafts of this script didn't have the clear character journey. I knew it clicked when I realized what the actual point of the journey was after the first draft. And I brought the second character in, so it became much more a two-hander. And that is what made the script sing, because then you can go back and tailor every scene and all the dialogue, just nudging it towards that theme and that character journey and the ultimate moment of catharsis for that character. And that's craft. You learn that the more you do it. That is nuance and that is craft. That is when you read a script and at the end of it, it feels satisfying. You feel like you've been on a journey. And even if it's left a little bit esoteric or a little bit open-ended, you get the point of the story. You understand what the point of the story was for the character. And I can't stress this enough, but that is the most important thing from a craft perspective. Not can you write an amazing piece of dialogue or can you write an amazing screen direction. Those things are good, or you know how and when to use your slug lines or your transitions. You know, those things are important, but the most important thing, the thing that I feel the ones who come across as really professional is they know what the point of the story is, and they're able to communicate that in a subtle way that just feels satisfying, because we all know what it's like to experience a story, and then at the end we kind of think, well, what was the point of that? It might have been amazing action, but what was kind of the point of it? What was I meant to learn? That's when stories feel empty. And I think that the scripts that are doing really well at these festivals and these competitions are the ones where they have a subtle but very clear point. Why are you telling the story? It goes right back to campfire stories. There has to be a point, and it doesn't have to be a moral message, but a character has to reveal themselves or learn something. And I think without that, the script just ends up being sort of an empty shell. So by professionalism, I don't just mean professionalism, on the page, but holistically, the script as a whole has to have a journey where the character wants something, but then they realize what they needed was something slightly different. They come to that realization. Could end great for that character, it could end poorly for that character, but there has to be that moment of realization or catharsis. There has to be the moment where you realize why the character went on that journey in the first place. Because otherwise, it's just going to feel hollow. And the fifth and final one, again, probably the most important, or certainly for me, for my script, the one that all of the feedback's praised universally. It kind of relates, I guess, to the second point, which is in the middle or about 2/3 of the way through the script, there is a really big reveal. I don't want to say it's a twist per se, but it's a reveal, another layer to the story that you didn't realize was there. And again, you thought it was going one way, but then it went another. And I think that reveal, because it was so shocking and changed the dynamic of the entire script and everything that you'd read before, but at the same time, you realized all the clues that you thought were about one thing were actually about this other thing, and it all connected together. It shows that the internal logic of the film was sound. Nothing was a cheat. And in fact, that's what one of the feedbacks that I got said. It was like a magic trick where nothing was a cheat. And I think it's hard to do, and it's hard to do something that's original in that. Think back to The Sixth Sense is probably one of the most famous versions of that, where you thought everything was leading you in one direction. All the clues were there that it's leading you in one direction, and then at the end you realize it's something else that you should have got that seemed inevitable but you didn't realize, and then all the clues fit into place. And that's the kind of paradigm shift that I'm talking about that my script had. Now, it doesn't mean every single script has to have that, but I think it's a real edge if you have something in there that does that, a reveal that is organic and fits the rules, but is still a shock. But retroactively all works and fits together. I was listening to the latest episode of the Tim Ferriss show, if anybody listens to that podcast, and they were interviewing Brandon Sanderson, who is a very prolific fantasy author. I'm sure many of you watching this will have heard of him. And he talks about this idea of hard magic systems. And the idea of a hard magic system is that everything has an internal logic to it in the magic. It's not just magic for magic's sake. The magic has a logic. It has a system. And then the beautiful moment in his stories are where a character realizes the cheat in the system, realizes, nobody's ever done this before. So when the character succeeds, it's because they did something bold and original, but within the rules. Think of, movies like The Matrix. The reason why they're so satisfying is because, Neo in the movie, Keanu Reeves, never breaks the system. He's working within the system. He works within the rules, but all the clues were there throughout the film. And that's what I'm talking about. It's where your hero does something, or there is a reveal or a twist that is part of the hardwired rules of the world that you have created, whether supernatural or not. Because, it could just be a generic action movie, and they have their own internal rules as well. Fast and Furious definitely has its own internal rules. We realize it's stretching the laws of physics beyond anything Newtonian. But it works because that's the logic of the movie. The movies have taught you that these are okay, and as long as a character can do something within these rules, then they're still a hero. So that's it. Those are my top 5 rules. What's next for me? Approaching Hollywood managers now. I'm doing my lists at the moment, and I might do a post on that, on how I'm going about that and what I'm doing. But that's where I am now, along with trying to actually get my latest script made. I deliberately wrote it small, and I've done enough short films now. It's time to make the feature, and I'm really happy with the script. So that's my 2-pronged approach: make the film and try and get some Hollywood representation. For anyone who wants any more information on any of these topics, particularly on getting managers, particularly on submitting to festivals and the kind of early stages of a screenwriting career, my best advice is there is the most amazing Reddit forum. It's just screenwriting, and it's got 1.7 million readers, or members. So that's the one you want. And that Reddit forum, I'll probably post a link below the video for it, is the amount of information on there is incredible. I've learned a lot from them. Everyone is very responsive, incredibly supportive. People are all stages of careers, right from people who have just started their first screenplay they've ever written to, Craig Mason's been on there. Frank Leonard, who runs the Blacklist, replied to one of my comments the other day. All the way through levels. People who are represented as WJ screenwriters are on there giving their advice. It is an incredible community. So don't just stare at my face. Get on that Reddit forum and just read. There are people posting new things every day, and I have learned so much, especially about this stage of the process. So there we go. Okay, that's it from me for now. Happy writing, everyone, and any questions or comments, I'll reply in the comments below. And please like and subscribe, as this is my first video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.